Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Elizabeth with Ellie's Handcrafted Jewelry, and today I'm going to be showing you how to create this adorable sun ring using a 4mm bead and some round wire. Best of all, this ring is adjustable, so it's great for those whose finger sizes fluctuate or they're just not certain what their ring size is. But before we get started, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to get updated on the latest videos. For materials and tools, you're going to need a ruler, a ring mandrel, 4 segments of 18 gauge wire, about 3 inches long, 9 to 12 inch segment of 20 gauge wire depending on the ring's general sizing, 24 gauge wire, you can cut off a segment but I like to work from the spool, a 4mm bead of your choice, just be sure that the hole is large enough for the 20 gauge wire, flesh cutters, chain nose pliers, round nose pliers which are optional, and flat nose pliers which are also optionals. Also recommended but not necessary is a rubber mallet for hardening the band. If you'd like to do the twisted band, you can also use your pliers, but I liked having a pin vise, which I find it super helpful for that. Another tool that's recommended but not necessary is a spring clamp. Now to get started, I'm going to go ahead and pull out my 18 gauge segments of wire, and I'm going to start with one segment of wire, taking my 24 gauge wire and then wrapping it over the top of the 18 gauge segment. So wrapping it one time, and then I'm going to grab another segment of 18 gauge wire, stick it on top, and then I'm going to wrap my 24 gauge wire around both the 18 gauge wires, like so. And then I'm going to grab another segment of wire, place it on top, and then I'm going to wrap around all 3 of those wires with my 24 gauge wire. And then I'm going to grab another segment of wire, stick it on top, and then wrap around all 4 wires. From there, I'm going to bring the wire up, and then in between the top and second to last wire, like so, and then scooting it over with my finger slightly, and then in between the 2 segments of wire, and then down around the bottom wire one time, and that is 1 rotation, and we're going to need 6 of those to create the rays for the sun. At this point, I'm going to grab my spring clamp and stick it there on the bottom. This is going to kind of help hold the wires together for me as I continue weaving. It's not not necessary for the project, but extremely helpful. And then I'm using my flat nose pliers to kind of compress the wire a little bit and slide it down towards the end. And I'm going to go ahead and continue making the rays for the sun. Now at this point you might need to spread out the wires a little bit so make the weaving a little easier. And we're just going to go ahead and bring that up around the 2 bottom wires like so. And then up around the bottom 3 wires one time. And then up around all 4 wires one time. And then down and around the bottom 3 wires again. Starting to go down with our little pyramid here. Then down around the bottom 2 wires, and then down around the bottom wire. Now I've heard this weave called the pyramid weave or even the triangle weave. Let me know in the comments what you call this weave. Now that I've completed my 6 rotations to create my rays, I'm going to go ahead and begin pulling out these 18 gauge segments of wire. But before I do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim off the end. So I'm going to go ahead and scrunch this up a little bit, and then I'm going to grab my flesh cutters and I will trim off the excess. And now I'm just going to take my pliers and begin tucking in those burrs. I'm using my flat nose pliers, but chain nose pliers work just as well. And once I've tucked in those wires, I'm going to go ahead and pull out these 18 gauge segments, being careful not to pull too tight on the 24 gauge wire. We don't want to warp the sun rays that we just spent time making. So just being careful to do that. As you can see, I'm applying pressure to the top of the ray, so that way it's not going to pull anything out of whack. And here are our rays. From there, I'm going to go ahead and take my 20 gauge wire and I'm going to proceed to bend it in half, like so. And then I'm going to grab my pliers once I get it bent in half and I will compress the end. Now I'm just using my flat nose pliers. I really like these pliers for this kind of situation. There's a little bit more surface area, so it's not likely to fall off and pinch my fingers too often. Now at this point I'm going ahead and straightening the wire a little bit. At this point you can actually leave it the way it is and move on to the next step, but I am going to make the twisted band in this tutorial just to kind of show you how I do it. And I will be using my pin vise. And as you can see, it's pretty easy to use. You just twist the head to tighten the bit together, and then you stick your wire in. I might need to open it up a little bit so I can stick it in there, but basically it's going to hold the end of the wire while I hold the opposite side with my pliers so that I can twist the wire more evenly. Before I begin twisting, I'm going to go ahead and kind of figure out the general ring size, which I'm going to do a size 7, and I'm just using a scrap piece of wire, and I'm going to wrap it around until I reach the other side there, and then I'll cut that off at that end, so that way I have a general idea of how long my band is going to be. Just comparing it to the size, so that way I know where to set my pliers when I begin twisting the band. So now I'm grabbing my chain nose pliers. I'm going to use them to hold the wire. As you can see, I've moved it further into the mouth of the plier, so that way I have a better hold. And you just begin twisting with the pin vise, and you get more even twists like this. So it's really easy rather than trying to use 2 pliers at one time. Now once I'm done twisting, I'm just going to go ahead and remove the wire from the pin vise. And I'm going to use my pliers to kind of even out that end there where it was in the pin vise. So I'm going to hold one end with the flat nose and the other with the chain nose and twist the end. Now once everything's nice and twisted, I'm going to go ahead and take my wire and pull one wire off to the side and the other straight out. And I'm going to take the wire that's off to the side and I'm going to wrap it around the other wire one time and then trim off the excess. Once I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and tuck in the wire using my chain nose pliers. You can also use flat nose pliers to do this. Now it's time to wrap it around the mandrel, so you're just going to hold it against the mandrel like so and begin wrapping it around. And at this point, I also recommend, like I said, having a rubber mallet on hand because this is going to be extremely helpful in getting it nice and round against the mandrel. Not only that, it's also going to harden the wire, so that way, especially like what I'm using is actually dead soft copper, so this is going to increase its hardness and make it more of a sturdy ring. From there, I'm going to go ahead and string my crystal bead onto the wire, like so. And then afterward, I'm going to string the rays onto the wire as well at the bottom of the triangle. Now once I've done this, I'm going to go ahead and gently begin bringing the wire around the crystal. So holding the crystal and trying to hold the first rays in place. To keep them from riding up the wire too much. This is going to be a very fiddly process, but I promise it is so worth it when you're done. And then once we've done that, we're going to go ahead and continue bringing the 20 gauge wire around the top. So what I'm doing is I'm holding the crystal and then kind of using my thumb as a guide as I continue to wrap the wire around. Now I'm just going to use my flush cutters and trim off that excess wire like so. And at this point you can kind of play with it with your pliers a little bit. Maybe use your round nose pliers if you need to round that out a little bit more. I'm using my chain nose pliers here just to kind of make some final adjustments. Now, if you like, you can absolutely leave the rays just as they are, but I'm going to go ahead and put some bends in mine. Almost looks more like a snowflake to me, I think. But I'm going to go ahead and bend these a little bit, leaving the center one untouched. Try and keeping it on camera. And then I'm going to bend the one next to the middle one the opposite direction. And the same with the one underneath it. Just using my chain nose pliers here. And I'm going to do that to all of the rays all the way around. So starting with the outer ones and moving or bending them outward. And then with the next one going the same direction, leaving the middle one untouched, then moving on to the outer two and bending them outward. And the next one. Like so, until voila. All the way around, it's got that beautiful ray, and it's adjustable, so it's comfortable, and you can adjust it to whatever size you need it to be. And I hope that you guys all enjoyed this tutorial. If you'd like to share your ring, you're more than welcome to join the Facebook group. The description is down below in the description box. It's a great place to share and ask questions from other artisans just like you. And if you found this video tutorial helpful, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the latest videos. Have a great day!